Hey guys, this is going to be a quick, unrehearsed, off-the-cuff video that addresses two topics. One, I wanted to thank you for your encouragement and suggestions on the new proposed segment. I'm settling on a name, something like Vintage Tech Tips and Curiosities, maybe. And I appreciate your suggestions, but some of them were venturing into areas I don't really want to go into, which is specific restoration tip topics like how do you replace a selenium rectifier with a silicon diode. I've talked about it before. It's been covered many times in many places. I think I want to focus more on things that nobody has heard about or seen before. Another question is so quick and simple, I'm just going to answer it. Why don't TV IF transformers suffer the same problems as radio IF transformers? By that, I think you meant silver mica disease. Simple, much higher frequency. Typical radio IF frequency is 455 kilohertz. TV maybe 45 megahertz. It's like 100 times higher frequency. They didn't use mica caps inside. If there are any caps inside, they are very small in value, and they are ceramic, or they're external mica caps in the very small picofarad range. So it's not an issue. They're made differently. Different materials. So today's topic, the second topic, is while working on my next Tech Corner topic, which is going to again be about tubes, I got back to something that I've been struggling with for a while, which is organizing and sorting my tubes. I spend way too much time on some projects looking for tubes. Like the GE TV recently, I needed a 25W4 damper tube. I spent probably 2, 3, 4 hours to finally find one. Why? Because I've got thousands of tubes and they're organized very poorly. I've seen many suggestions over the years on how to organize tubes, and I've tried a few different ways. So here's an example. I use a lot of 6AU6s and 6AG5s in these late 40s TVs, so I just pull them all out and put them into one box. That has worked out well for these tubes, which again, some of the most common tubes I use, and generally when TVs use them, they may use half a dozen or more of them, so I go through a lot of them. Other tubes, less commonly used tubes, like especially series strung tubes, I just went by the starting number. Like if the tube starts with 4, they all went into a box. Start with 3, all went into a box. 5, all into a box. Because I don't have a whole lot of those. I may have like 100 of each type. And I rarely need those. So that worked out okay. But then you get into tubes that start with 6. Well, I have several thousand of those, and ranging from like big old power tubes to little Nuvistors and everything in between. And different bases and different eras, because there's been 6-volt tubes going back probably to the 20s and up through the 70s, or whenever they stopped making tubes. So that's not going to work. So then I started isolating ones that I don't use as often, like I took all my Lochtel tubes and put those into one box. I took all my Compactron tubes and put those into one box. Which works well enough, because I rarely use any of those. But still, when I want something like a 6SN7, they may be scattered across 20 boxes or so. So my next thought was, well, let's organize it by function, which I've seen other guys recommend. Like if All American 5 radios, typically they use a certain set of tubes. And there's the octal type, which would be like a 35L6 and a 12SK7 and a 12SQ7 or something like. Identify the 5 commonly tubes in an All-American 5 and organize those. There's people selling them on eBay like that. Well, they'll take out the 5 tubes, wrap a rubber band around the carton, and sell them as a set, or like a set of tubes for a predicted TV. So I did that for a while, but the reality, like I put all my predicted tubes into one box. But the reality is there's a lot of overlap with the stuff I work on. Because I work on stuff from the 20s through the 60s, radios and TVs. So it gets tough. So what I was doing was taking tube caddies. I picked up a few at a swap fest, and I put like Admiral 40 late 40s TVs and RCA late 40s TVs. They use similar tubes. Let's put all those into one tube caddy. and like all the American 5 tubes into another tube caddy. That worked okay, except that I got a dozen tube caddies and they're kind of big and bulky, and I got to hunt through those to get the right one. And when I take tubes out and I'm working, so I got to remember to put them back into the right place, which invariably does not happen. So I just end up with, after I'm done with a project, I usually have a box, well, something like this, full of the tubes that are left over as I was swapping out tubes to try to get it to work, and eventually, just like a grocery store, where people in their checkout line, they change their mind, there's a bunch of stuff that needs to go back on the shelves, they need to get restocked, and that often doesn't happen for a while. Which brings us up to now. I'm going to go handheld and show you what I've been up to. My trusty helper's kind of in the way right now. Shadow. Alright, so when I acquire tubes, often I'll just get a box of random tubes, or I get tube caddies that are filled with tubes. And sometimes, eventually, I'll get around to sorting through them, which is what I've been doing more of now. And I've encountered some patterns, which is what these tubs are about. The reality is, for me, and probably a lot of you too, is that there are a lot of tubes in my stash that I rarely use and may never use. An awful lot of them are TV damper tubes. So this entire tub and the tubes on top, and I got a whole lot more to go in here, are just damper tubes. I wouldn't be surprised if like 20% of all the tubes I have are TV damper tubes. And a lot of them are from eras like the 60s, Compactron damper tubes that I just will never, or very unlikely that I will ever use. I've also been surprised at how many damper tubes are in the caddies. Now, one thing about when you buy tube caddies, often all the good tubes have been picked out. The audio tubes, the 12AX7s, the 5AU4 rectifiers, in other words, the useful tubes, the tubes that have value, the audio output tubes. So I don't know if there's a lot of damper tubes because that's just, all the good tubes have been plucked out and what's left are the undesirable tubes, or the damper tubes fail a lot back in the day and repairmen commonly carried around a lot of damper tubes with them. I don't know. But man, I got enough 12AX4s and 6W4s and such to last several lifetimes. So those are all going in here. Now there are some like 5V4s that are valuable, do have some crossover applications, but I use them as dampers, so they went in here as well. The tub below is all going to be horizontal output tubes, and I'm going to do probably 3 more. One will be all high voltage rectifiers. I'm slowly building up a pile of those, and I'll do a 4th one with conventional power supply rectifiers, your 6X5s, 5U4s, and so on. And the 5th one will be the oddballs that I'm never, probably ever going to use in anything ever. What I've got here is a typical tube caddy that you might pick up sight unseen, and this is what you can expect to find inside of one. This I got off of eBay probably 15 years ago when you could do such things without spending a fortune. Now either it's going to be a lot of money. I mean, people sell empty tube caddies for a lot of money because interest in tubes has grown, especially if there's any audio tubes mixed in. But as this is typically the case, there are no desirable audio tubes left in here. There were a few empty slots. I put in a few. The handwritten ones are the ones I've added to this just to fill it up. But let's take a quick look at what you can typically find in here. So, standard tube caddy's got one deep suction at the bottom where you can put your big power tubes. Then there'll be one side for octal tubes, and then one side for miniature 7 and 9 pin tubes. So on the miniature side, it's mostly series strong oddball TV tubes, like a 3EA5, I don't even know what that is, or a 3DK6 or a 5BK7. Most of these I have no use for. Some of them are used in predictas. Some used in radios. There's some crossover, like a 6AV6 type tube. You might see in both TVs and radios. In the power tubes, we got a bunch of Compactrons, like a 38 HE7, which I think is a combo horizontal output tube and damper in one envelope, something like that. Some oddball weird stuff, I don't even know what it is, like a TS1507, that might be a relay tube or something. So, you know, weed out this junk because I'm just never gonna use these. So I do this one-handed. There we go. Well, no, it's TS1, that is what it is, Bendix Marine. This is probably a transmitter tube then. Like a VHF, like for maybe a CB rig or a low power transceiver. Don't know. 0D3, that is a gaseous regulator tube, kind of like a Zener diode in tube form. I mean, my point is, I'm not going to use this stuff. And then same with the octals. No, we don't have any good like 6V6s or anything in here, I don't think. Well, we got a 50Y6. Okay, that is an audio tube, but not a very popular one. More Compactrons. So like 90% of what's in here, I'm never going to use, or it's very unlikely to use. So get it out, put it all into another tub. I've got 3 of these nice big RCA tube caddies. This one's kind of starting to fall apart. I think I'll take these 3 RCAs, empty them all out, and stock 3 of them. One with like 30s type radios, one with 40s, 50s, like All-American 5 type radios, and one with late 40s, early 50s TV tubes. If I got a 4th caddy, I'll put more TV tubes in that. And the rest of the stuff I'll organize kind of the way I had been, with the tubes that start with 2 and the tubes that start with 3, and group those together. I'm not saying this system will work for everybody or anybody. It might not even be worked that well for me. But I gotta do something, because that's one of the things that's really slowed me down on these projects is I waste way too much time. And that's what I'm doing in between projects in general, is organizing. I did a video on resistors a while ago. I've been organizing caps as well. Pardon the mess. I was taking out bubble wrap because a lot of my tubes are not boxed. So like, there's some really good horizontal output tubes in there. I got to wrap in bubble wrap. What I wanted to show you though was down here. I got some Acro Mills drawer organizers. Those I'll use for all my small new parts, resistors, capacitors. That stuff's easy to organize. It's the tubes. I've been in one. I was in one Restore collector's basement, not too dissimilar from this, and what he did was he custom built shelving systems, like just to hold tubes, and he had like an entire wall or entire room with all the walls covered with tube boxes. That would be cool and practical if I worked on a lot more stuff than I do. I don't want to dedicate that much square footage to just having tubes out everywhere. I don't go through that many, but I think this will help out considerably. So now if I need a damper tube, bam, it's going to be in here somewhere. I'll try to put the more common ones up top. Horizontal output tube, bam, it'll be in there. Rectifier, bam, it'll be in the other tub. At least that's a start. That's what I've been up to. I will be doing another Tech Curiosity Corner tidbit coming up soon. I'm just waiting to find one tube. And then I will wrap that up and get it posted. I hope you'd enjoyed this rambling, and please share your thoughts and opinions and tips on how you organize your tubes so you don't have to waste so much time trying to find them. What have we here? This is a tease of a recent find that I hope to dig into once I get these TV projects cleared out. Yes, it is a radio. That's all I'm going to say.